Good afternoon, guys. So I'm going to do my last options trading review of the week before I continue on with, or before I leave town for a few days. So here was a pre-market analysis. I was pretty bullish for this pivot to break here on ES. Beforehand, I sent out some pre-market analysis, kind of just laying out uh, that. Give me one second. Let me finish marking these pivots. I always delete them while I'm trading. Get those ones marked out. Okay. So here's the pre-market analysis. Bullish, obviously. Now, I sent the pre-market analysis a little bit before we got this pivot. I was bullish for not only this pivot to break, but us to get supply. And depending on if we're pretty strong, my nearest PT aside from supply, pivot-wise, is these NQ pivots here. That's kind of what I'm targeting. Otherwise, I have some pivots pretty far below, but that's pretty much it. Oops. So the market opens, and we actually have a little bit of research to do today. Market opens pretty bullish. I'm bullish at this point, not only for ES to get supply, but I'm looking for this here. And this candle happens, and night and day strength difference. Now I'm still leaning bullish on NQ to get to the nearest pivot. ES is a lot stronger than NQ, and I'm assuming that NQ is very likely to get a new high of day because we put in a beautiful buying wick on this candle. So one more green candle on NQ, and I'd assume it's very likely to get high of day. So I took a pretty light size call trade up here on ES. Now, here's the thing with these trades lately. These are much more aggressive trades right at open, especially going against supply. And they're pretty much just done off momentum and strength divergences. It's kind of a hit or miss with these. These trades, especially going half size, they definitely have a lower win rate. I'd say lately the win rate's probably 55 to 60%. So not nearly as high of a win rate. Uh, Maybe it's a little less. Maybe it's 50-50. But when it hits, it's like my wins are so much larger than my losses. Very similar trade yesterday I took, except the trade yesterday was a lot better than this one and I lost. But even before that, let me scroll on my channel. Didn't do it on Wednesday. Let me check Tuesday real quick. Yeah, like Tuesday. Let's go back to Tuesday real quick. On or last Friday? Yeah, last Friday, I guess. Whatever the heck the 6th is. I thought I went to Tuesday. Maybe I skipped Tuesday by accident. Uh, Took this trade here. And I actually filled it. Is this the right day? Yeah, the 6th. 6th I sent out this alert. Yeah, right at 7:30, right at market open my time. Filled right here. It's the exact same kind of thing. And it's really interesting lately because we've had a lot of these market opens that are just explode to the upside or just dumpster to the downside. And when they win really big. But it's only been like a 50% win rate. So I'm a little conflicted because I used to like never enter at market open or within the first 2 minutes of market open. But lately, because of this reinforcement here that you see on the left, because most of my huge wins over the last few weeks have been these trades right at open, I find myself much more willing or much more I should probably say trigger happy kind of right at open, right? This was a huge trade. This trade here, I don't even know what it freaking got to. This is the only trade I took. It was like I got 91% on it. That's the channel, but I think it got to like 150 or something. Let me look at any previous days for more examples because we need to. Day before was a green put trade, kind of right at market open, and not as much though. Yeah, same thing. Like I think the win rate of these are actually a little bit below 50%. But here's 2 days prior, the February 4th, right at market open. Let's go take a look. And this was an alert. This was actually a QQQ trade. So I'll actually go. I'm not gonna go in replay mode because I don't want to have to find redo today's price action again. Um, was it this one? QQ half. Are we sure this is it? 4th. Why does this look different? Why does my screenshot look different? So just really zoomed in. Yeah, it was. Okay, I guess it was just really zoomed in. Here's another one. This was 75% gains, right kind of at open. Now this one, um, it barely missed my PT, barely missed my price target, shot back up, but this was up 75%. What I'm doing right now is I'm trying to figure out exactly how often, like why am I a little bit more trigger happy at market open? So I need to go back and see every single time that that action of entering pretty much right at market open has been reinforced. Um, let me see. Yeah, same thing here. It's like I think it's actually lower than a 50% win rate, but when it wins so freaking big. And there's no other entries for it. Like no other entries. This was QQQ calls right at market open. 2 days before that, on the 2nd, right here. I alerted QQQ calls at 7:31. So it was probably during this dip right here, right when this dip invalidated. And it's like, I don't get any other entries after that. And that was huge. And I filled SPX. That entire day was just kind of up. So this price action that we've been experiencing the last few days, it's really hit or miss at market open. But, I'm pretty green overall over the last few weeks options trading. And I credit a lot to that, to these opening plays. But I'm starting to wonder if, I should pivot back more towards my more conservative self and kind of try to refrain from entering right at market open. But this is another great example of just absolutely printing right at market open, and it just doesn't come back. There was another one that was green trimmed, but then it came back down. uh, one day before, yeah, 2 days before this, or a few days before this on the 29th. Look at these market opens, guys. Now this one was a bit. I couldn't be in this one right away because it was chopping down. But look at these days. Right from the start, it's just instant trend. Look at. Like, this is a second as well. It's what we just looked at. So this kind of explains why I find myself to be more trigger happy, kind of right at market open. Like, look, I don't think we over the last 20 trading days, I don't think I've ever really in my trading career have I seen so many trends established right after market open and continue for over an hour. Uh, right here, I alerted SPX puts 1 minute and some change after market open during this candle. And obviously, there's more to it. It's not just like it's opening one way and then I'm entering. It's it's opening a specific way. I already have some decent PTs in this case below it, and it's weak. Yeah, it's super aggressive, right? And kind of right at market open. And sorry, this isn't even it. I filled it right here, right after the market open. Um, it's like that's why this kind of psychology behind my trigger happy mindset at market open is kind of reinforced. Yeah, same thing. Literally the day before. Look at this, guys. Is it the day before? No, it's not the day before. Oh, it is on NQ, sorry. Yeah, look at the day, literally this day and then the day before. Filled QQQ puts. Right? Not here. Same day though. Here. Only made 13% on it. So it's been reinforced, and I'm kind of going through my alert channel and looking. It's been like I've been entering so much at market open, but because today is the second day in a row to where my first trade was a loser, even though the losses are moderate and when they win they're a lot bigger. I'm starting to think maybe I should kind of pivot more back into a conservative higher win rate trading rather than just making more money. Because the truth is, even though my win rate's been lower, I've been making more money because my wins are freaking massive when they've been hitting lately. And there's been a decent amount of days as well that I'm seeing that, I'm hesitant to market open and then it just runs without me. Yeah, here's another one. Look. 2 days, literally 2 days before this on the 26th. Alerted a minute after market open. On the 26th. Here. Look at this. Now, today's trade right at market open that I just talked about, and I didn't go through the result, I don't think it was that good of a trade. I get why I did it, but normally, if I were trading a bit more conservative or I cared about my win rate a little bit more, that's not really a trade I would take. But this kind of explains why I find myself being a lot more trigger happy. I mean, this is just the last 2 weeks. And what, 40% of the days or 30% of the days it's probably 50%, I don't know. 50% of the days, literally every other day, because we just looked at the 29th, we just looked at the 28th, we just looked at the 26th. Literally every other day is one of these trades. I called out SPX calls here, and they freaking took off. I didn't hold all the way, obviously. I held it like here, but so that kind of explains why I've been trigger happy lately, and I'm kind of wondering because market streaks they don't last forever, right? And we're definitely in a season where this has kind of been the norm. Not even really in December, mostly just the last month, I feel like. Mostly just the last month. The last few weeks, we've been getting these huge trends at market open, and I've subconsciously evolved to that market. While it doesn't really help my win rate, it definitely helps my profit and loss. And, I'm not a huge fan of this trade at all. I get why he did it. It's strong, breaking to the upside. I'm looking for the pivot. But this trade has only been working out 50% of the time. But like I said, the times that it hits really big. But I feel like my subconscious has evolved too far to where I'm too trigger happy at market open. So what I'm gonna do this weekend in my spare time, because like I said, I'm gonna be gone, is I'm gonna kind of go through every single market open, and I haven't had to do this in a bit because it's pretty routine. But this is kind of a red flag, and I'm gonna go through every single market open and see what are the commonalities between the days where I'm aggressive at market open and it freaking prints, or the days I'm aggressive at market open and it doesn't. Yesterday I was aggressive at market open, I ended up losing, but that was a better setup than this. So what I kind of see is that my bar for my initial first trade is getting lower and lower. So this ended up being a loss. Of course, I still entered half size because I acknowledge that it's aggressive. And I was planning on averaging down when NQ sweeps this level. Well, NQ did sweep that level, but then I stopped out. So, yeah, I stopped out. I believe it was actually on this candle. I didn't get the fill that I wanted to on my stop loss, unfortunately. But I did stop out here. I believe it was minus 28%. Enter at 2.6 filled my second half at 1.85, stopped out at 1.6, just 25 cents below that average down for minus 28%. I also feel like that threw me off just a little bit. I feel like today just I wasn't as locked in today. I took a futures trade that really wasn't supposed to take in my futures trading session, and that ended up being a loss, which ended up being avoidable. I mean, I didn't really sleep much last night, but maybe it's because I'm leaving on vacation tomorrow, so I want to end on a good note, but because I want to end on a good note, that alters my perception just a tad and makes me a little bit more trigger happy to pulling the trigger on trades, because I'm not going to trade for the next 2 days. I kind of think that's what happened. But anyway, so that's my first trade. My ruling is that trade, I think it's totally avoidable. I don't think it needed to happen. And I understand, especially after just looking at the examples. I didn't do that before this recording. I just did that in front of you guys. It makes sense. It makes sense why it's Can you guys not hear me in chat? Your Discord. Hang on, give me 1 second. Otherwise, you guys that can't hear me in Discord, you're just gonna have to watch the recording, unfortunately. So, anyways, that kind of explains why I've been more trigger happy, and I just need to play a little bit of detective, which I've been doing a lot for my new future strategy, because I trade futures different than trade options, and just kind of connect the setups that work and the setups like this that don't work. This is pretty clear, though. I don't think this trade should have been entered. There was an argument for it, but I don't think the argument was strong enough. Anyways, so at this point, I'd take my fib, and I don't remember exactly which pivot I took my fib to. Let me see. Okay, I just took it to this low, just encapsulating this move. And at this point, I'm kind of leaning bearish to for ES to get to the 38.2%. But I'm not really bearish overall. A big problem with puts right now is not only these buying wicks that I'm seeing, but I don't have any pivots below. I have no price targets anywhere below. I have demand down here, so if we dump all the way down to here, then I would ideally like to enter puts, right? But until then, not really. And here we are making a lower low. ES just beautifully bounced off the 38.2%. We just put in a reversal candle. So I'm starting to think we're going to bounce. We put in this bearish candle. Now I think we're going to drop. We end up dropping just a tad. We make a lower low, and then we start bouncing again. So I'm thinking, okay, this is starting to chop down. The odds of a short squeeze are going up. So if we invalidate a majority of this move, and it looks like right here NQ is actually flipping stronger than ES, I will enter calls. That's kind of the plan. Look at ES. See, the problem is ES isn't bearishly consolidating, right? Bear flags, bear pennants, ascending broadening wedges, all those things, they don't have lower lows. That's an aspect of a bullish pattern. So NQ is extremely strong, and ES is making lower lows and bouncing. I can't be bearish. I have to lean bullish because this is indicating a bounce. And if this bounces, I'm going to be bullish for NQ to get to new high of day. And also, I'm seeing after every single one of these little bounces, right here, right here, right here, after every single one of these bounces, that candle is getting abruptly invalidated extremely fast, which is telling me shorts are trying to short every single bounce. And if we end up starting to short squeeze, it's going to be a lot of shorts to squeeze out of this, which should get me high of day. Well, here's a short squeeze. I'm filling this every time. I didn't quite fill full size. It left a bunch of my orders in the dust. I tried filling at 60 cents. I don't even know if I filled any. I thought I did, but I don't remember. So I ended up filling at 65 cents, and this is kind of the trade. That got freaking slammed immediately. Now I was a little bit hesitant on my stop loss, so I waited another half candle. it ended up bouncing. I'm like, okay, if this bounce invalidates, I'll be out. Oh, there you go, I'm out. So that was only like a 20. No, that was a bigger loss. That was like a 35 or 40% loss. Wasn't quite full size, but the contracts just went to hell. For whatever reason, they got slammed. So I'm like, well, that freaking sucks. That trade's unavoidable. I have to take that trade. It's just the first trade of the day I have issues with. Well, here's the problem. We're starting to trend down on ES. Look how much stronger NQ is than ES. NQ hasn't made any lower lows. And I'm starting to, well, I don't want to enter puts on QQQ because I'm thinking the NASDAQ, it may be one of those mornings where we just compress or chop sideways. And if I enter puts here, I think there's a pretty damn good chance it's going to bounce and stop me out. And then I'm going to have to enter calls. And if I enter calls and it drops me, then I'm going to have to stop those calls and enter puts. And then you can see the nightmare that'll unfold, right? So I try to keep that door shut. So I can't enter puts on the NASDAQ, or I wouldn't because it's strong. Puts on ES right here are an option, but I want to wait one more candle and see if we start bouncing like at all. Sure enough, we do. And after this bounce, you can see that ES is starting to form a falling wedge, which is a bullish reversal pattern. And I have no idea which way NQ is going to break. I'm thinking it's a little bit more likely to break to the upside if we can get back up to here. I can't enter puts while ES is in this falling wedge, and I have no idea which way NQ is going to end up breaking. I mean, it's super strong. ES is making lower lows and bouncing, so this whole time I'm thinking it's a bit more likely that we squeeze to the upside. But one thing I know for sure with this compression on the NASDAQ is we are going to break hard one way or another, right? And I'm thinking it's a little bit more likely to break to the upside. I was really close to entering light calls and just trying to enter here on support and then anticipate the bounce, but that's outside of my style. I usually don't do that. So we're still in the falling wedge, and look at these lower lows that ES is putting in with the buying wicks. Right? Putting in the lower lows of the buying wicks, I cannot enter frickin' puts. And this would start looking like bearish consolidation. But the problem is we're making lower lows. It's not a little bear pennant or a bear flag. We're making lower lows within a falling wedge. I can't enter puts. And at this point, I finally flip bearish. But here, the falling wedge starts invalidating. Maybe now I can potentially enter puts. Not really, because now we have a volume spike and a buying wick. NQ is indicating that it may want to put in a bullish liquidity sweep of this low. So that's evidence of a potential bounce. I still can't enter puts. So I am missing out on this entire drop. Well, we finally get a huge volume spike and a huge buying wick. And I was finally like, okay, I can take, if this little buying wick invalidates, I can take a put trade. I'd have to enter like half size because, I don't like entering at the bottom, and I think it's decent chance it consolidates. So I was going to enter here roughly half size, but now I can't because we put in the world's biggest buying wick and volume spike, which is a textbook indication of a reversal. So I still can't, and it's off the 61.8 fib, which is the most important reversal fib. Well, this happens. NQ flips weaker than ES, and NQ breaks low a day, makes a lower low. ES actually invalidates a selling wick, which is extremely, extremely bearish to make another lower low. So 95% certainty, 99% chance in my mind, this is going to get to a lower low, but I can't enter this. The risk reward's terrible. But then I have an opportunity. ES bounced before low of day, and I still have that exact same sentiment for low of day. So this is where I alert to you guys, I'm scaling into QQQ puts on this bounce because the NASDAQ is weaker, ES is bouncing. I'm scaling in on this bounce. I don't know how far it's going to go, but at this very moment, even though the bounce is small, just going to demand, the risk to reward isn't awful, right? It's a possible trade. So I enter first here and I add more here. No, not here. Here. On this candle. I entered at 80 cents initially. I averaged down at 70 cents. My average was like 75 cents. And this was a freaking work of art. NQ almost missed it. Unfortunately, I sold most right when it hit demand, and then I closed my runner at the demand cluster. And then I checked the news. And right after I closed my runners, I saw news of the Goldman Trading Desk announcing that they believe March rate cuts are off the table, and that is bearish. That explains why we're going down. And I was like, shit, because I just sold my whole freaking position. So that was a pretty big win. I made back most of my loss, was still light red on the day, and I'm just hoping for a re-entry. I have some decent pivots here. I have a pivot here right at the bottom of the fib, and I have pivot here on ES and here, right? I'm just hoping for some kind of entry, some kind of bearish consolidation, some kind of bounce. We get to the next pivot. I certainly cannot enter puts after a bullish liquidity sweep on high volume and demand. But now we start breaking through it, and I'm hoping for an opportunity to play not just the ES break, demand break, which just happened, but I still have one more PT close. It is the NQ demand break. It bounced a hair right here, just a tiny hair. I had an order a little bit above, obviously not a full position, but just trying to get in, and it freaking broke without me. So that's another reason why I'm not happy about this morning at all, is I feel like I missed the whole damn thing today. It's unfortunate that I didn't see that news. I saw it right away, just by luck. I happened to check the news, and it was posted that same minute that I checked it, and it was right after I sold, like 30 seconds after I sold. Based on my news sources, there wasn't really a way for me to see that sooner. So, yeah, missed out on that. That's pretty rough. I got 100% gains on the huge, tiny runner. So it's huge gains, tiny runner. This was probably up like 300 or 400%. Actually, I do know because I checked after. These puts 5x'd after I sold. So anyways, this is 813. Yeah. Now this is a bullish liquidity sweep. And I took one more trade. Now it's kind of a sketchy trade. We have a bullish liquidity sweep here. We barely missed demand. Where did I enter this trade at? Oh, right here. We got to demand and NQ got to its next pivot. However, we barely missed this pivot on ES. I'm fairly trigger happy given the sentiment. I alert that I am scaling in on this little bounce here because I know it's pretty damn likely to get new low of day. Obviously, I can't get in super heavy, but I do get in on this bounce and I actually do get a pretty good fill. Didn't get a chance to change my contracts or anything because they keep going up, so I filled at 3.4, looking for new low of day. And I added a little bit more as it put in this selling wick, and there you go. So I got a little bit more profits there, plus 47%. It actually ended up being a really good sell, and that flipped my day light green. And it would have been brighter green if I held runners on this, if I entered this with much heavier size, which I can't because the risk to award is there. If ES wasn't perfectly making lower lows and holding on to this possible falling wedge, which threw off my sentiment. There's a lot of things that barely kind of perfect storm happened that prevented me from taking advantage of this huge drop a lot more. But, you know, it is what it is. All I can do is kind of look at what I've done and analyze that, come up with data to support the conclusions that come from that analysis, and then implement that moving forward. So, yeah, a bit longer of a review today, but it needed to happen. And yeah, I don't know, man. With these super trendy opens, I should have been all over this drop. Just it happened in such a way with NQ super strong and the falling wedge on ES to where I was doubtful until it was pretty much at my demand. And then I didn't see the news until like a minute after. 1 minute too late, I saw the news. So just unfortunate and unlucky. But I don't know. I'll uh, I'll probably keep trading lighter size right at open. But it looks like the win rate of the super aggressive right at open entries is starting to drop a little bit more and more with 2 days in a row red for the first trade now. So I'll keep an eye on it. Maybe I'll switch back to conservative in this season of market movement. Maybe comes to a conclusion and we start pivoting more towards, the typical liquidity grab, fake out right at open, another liquidity grab, and then back the original way or whatever it goes or whatever happens, right? Not just these one direction right at open all morning. That's it. So, but all right, sweet. I appreciate you guys watching this recording. For all you Discord people that couldn't hear, you're going to need to watch this on YouTube. I'll ping you guys when it's out, and good luck trading tomorrow and Friday. I will not be here, but do your best to keep your psychology intact. And I'll be back bright and early Monday morning for many full weeks in a row. I don't plan on leaving again until like September. So I'll be here every day next week and moving forward. So I'll see you guys then for hopefully a fantastic week.